During my daughter's engagement party, her fiancé cornered me in the study and whispered, "Transfer $175,000 to my account by Monday, or I'll tell Emily you tried to bribe me to leave her. She'll never speak to you again." I looked him straight in the eye, reached into my desk drawer, and pulled out my phone. The look on his face when I hit play on the recording changed everything. But to understand how we got here, I need to take you back 4 months. The call came on a Tuesday morning in late September. I was reviewing client portfolios at my downtown Boston office when Emily's number lit up my phone. My daughter rarely called during work hours. "Dad, are you free for lunch today?" Her voice had that breathless quality I hadn't heard since she was 16. "Of course. Everything okay?" "Better than okay. I need to tell you something. Can you meet me at that bistro on Newbury Street? 1 o'clock? She slid into the booth across from me, cheeks flushed from the autumn wind. At 29, she was thriving. Marketing manager at a tech firm, condo in the Seaport district. "Dad, I'm engaged." The words hit like a punch to the gut. "Engaged? To whom?" Brett Donovan." She pulled out her phone, swiped to a photo. "We've been seeing each other for 4 months. I know it's fast, but when you know, right?" The man in the photo was handsome. Mid-30s, expensive suit, confident smile. But something in the way he angled himself in front of Boston's skyline like he owned it set off quiet alarms. 4 months isn't very long, sweetheart." "I know, but Dad, he's different. Successful entrepreneur, founded 2 startups. He understands my career, supports my ambitions." Her eyes were shining. "He's nothing like those other guys who felt threatened by my success. I'd love to meet him properly. That's why I called. Dinner at your place this weekend?" Saturday evening, I prepared my Beacon Hill home for their arrival, set the dining table with the good china my ex-wife Karen had left behind after the divorce 12 years ago. The divorce had been ugly. Karen claimed I cared more about my clients than my family. Maybe she was right. 2 years later, she remarried. Brian Sullivan, a successful litigation attorney. Big house in Wellesley, country club membership, everything I supposedly couldn't provide. Emily had taken her mother's side initially, spent 2 years barely speaking to me. It took years to rebuild what we'd lost. Brett arrived at 7 sharp, striding through my front door like he was inspecting a property investment. 6 feet tall, designer everything, handshake too firm. "Robert, great to finally meet you." His eyes cataloged my home. Beautiful brownstone. These places in Beacon Hill must be worth, what, $3 million now? I haven't had it appraised recently. Smart investment. I'm in real estate myself. He moved to my bookshelf, leather-bound first editions. Very nice. Emily hovered beside him, watching his reactions like she was presenting me for approval. The dynamic felt wrong. Dinner conversation started pleasantly. Brett discussed his ventures with practiced enthusiasm. Currently developing a revolutionary crypto investment platform, blockchain-based real estate tokenization. We're in stealth mode, but early investors are seeing incredible returns, 15 to 20% annually. My financial advisor instincts immediately flagged this. Nothing legitimate promises those returns consistently. That seems aggressive. What's the underlying asset class? Brett smiled. That's the beauty of crypto. The returns come from market inefficiencies, algorithmic trading. It's complex, but trust me, the numbers work. Emily jumped in. Brett's already helped 3 of my colleagues make significant profits. When Emily excused herself to use the restroom, Brett's demeanor shifted. The practiced charm remained, but something harder emerged underneath. Emily mentioned you're quite successful, built your practice from nothing after your divorce. I worked hard. Yes, she deserves security, a man who can provide the lifestyle she's accustomed to. His eyes met mine, measuring. I hope you understand how important that is. Family. Supporting family. The implication hung heavy. This wasn't casual conversation. This was negotiation. After they left, I sat in my study staring at Brett's business card. Embossed, expensive, CEO, Donovan Ventures International. I'd been a financial advisor for 35 years. I'd seen enough frauds to recognize the signs. Returns too good to be true usually were. Monday morning, I called my contact at the Securities and Exchange Commission. David Chen and I had worked together on several client fraud cases. David, I need a favor. Unofficial. Can you run a name for me? Brett Donovan, supposedly running a crypto investment platform. His response came Tuesday afternoon. Robert, there's no registered investment operation under his name. No licenses, no regulatory filings. If he's taking money from investors, he's operating illegally. What else can you tell me? Limited, but I made some calls. Name came up in connection with a collapsed real estate syndication 3 years ago. Seattle-based. Investors lost about $900,000. Donovan wasn't charged, but he was peripherally involved. My stomach dropped. I tried calling Emily immediately. Straight to voicemail. Texted her. No response. Finally, she called back at 8 that evening. Dad, I'm busy. What's up? I need to talk to you about Brett. Can you come over? Her tone immediately shifted, defensive. If this is about his business, I've already told you it's legitimate. Emily, I had someone look into him. There's no registered investment operation. He has no securities licenses, and he was connected to a collapsed syndication where people lost $900,000. Silence. Then, cold as January, wind off Boston Harbor. You investigated him? Behind my back? I'm trying to protect you. From what? From being happy? Her voice was rising now. You did this with James, with Michael, with every guy I've ever dated. Found something wrong with each of them. This is different. These are facts. Or maybe you can't stand seeing me with someone successful, someone who doesn't need your approval or your money. She paused. Brett warned me you'd react like this. My chest tightened. Brett warned you? He said you'd try to control this relationship, that you can't let go. And you know what? He was right. The line went dead. I sat in my study, staring at my phone. 3 unanswered texts, 5 calls to voicemail. My daughter had cut me off completely, and Brett had predicted it. More than predicted it. He'd prepared for it, positioned himself as the understanding partner against the controlling father. Wednesday morning, my office assistant knocked on my door. A woman's here to see you. Says it's urgent. Won't give her name. The woman who entered was mid-50s, well-dressed, tired eyes. She settled into the chair across from my desk like someone carrying great weight. Mr. Morrison, my name is Margaret Hayes. I got your name from David at the SEC. He said you were asking about Brett Donovan. My attention sharpened. You know him? He destroyed my son. She pulled a folder from her purse, hands shaking. Michael was 31, successful software engineer, met Brett at a Seattle tech networking event 4 years ago. She slid a photo across my desk. A young man, smiling, confident. Brett convinced Michael to invest in a real estate development, showed him property renderings, construction contracts. Everything looked perfect. Michael put in his life savings, $92,000. What happened? The project didn't exist. Fake documents, fake contractors. By the time Michael realized it, Brett had disappeared. The money was gone, moved through offshore accounts. She pulled out more documents. Michael wasn't the only one. The Seattle syndication alone cost investors $900,000. But I've documented at least 7 other victims across 4 cities. Total damages, over $1.2 million. My blood ran cold. Mr. Morrison, Brett Donovan is a predator. He researches his targets, finds their vulnerabilities, exploits them systematically. If your daughter is involved with him, she's in danger. After Margaret left, I sat surrounded by her documentation. Police reports, civil court filings, victim statements. A pattern emerged clearly. Young professionals, successful, isolated from family. Average loss, $170,000 per victim. I tried calling Emily again. Blocked, drove to her condo. She wouldn't come to the door. Thursday evening, I was having a beer at my usual spot when Tony Brennan slid into the booth across from me. Tony and I had been business partners for 20 years, both divorced, both struggling with the aftermath. "You look like hell, Rob." I told him everything. Brett, the engagement, Emily cutting me off, Margaret's documentation. Tony listened, jaw tightening. When I finished, he leaned forward. "You know what you need to do? Handle this the old way." What's that supposed to mean? I know people. People who can make Brett understand he needs to leave town. Permanently. Tony's voice was low. Or we could play his game. Threaten to expose him unless he walks away. "Tony, your daughter is about to get cleaned out by a con artist, and you're sitting here playing by the rules? Sometimes you have to get your hands dirty." And what does that teach Emily? That I'm just as bad as Brett? It teaches her that her father has a spine. I shook my head. There's a difference between having a spine and losing your moral compass. I won't become the villain in my daughter's story just to save her from Brett. Tony sat back, frustrated. "You're too soft, Rob. Always have been. Maybe that's why Karen left." The words stung because they hit close to old wounds. But I'd spent 12 years learning that real strength wasn't about forcing your will on others. "Maybe you're right," I said quietly. "But I'd rather be too soft than too hard. At least I can live with myself." That night, I couldn't sleep. Lay in bed replaying Tony's words. Part of me wondered if he was right, if I was being weak. The anxiety attacks had started after the divorce, usually managed them well. But tonight, sitting alone in my dark bedroom, my chest tightened. Breath came short. I woke at 3 a.m. gasping. The walls of my bedroom seemed to close in. I'd lost Karen, lost years with Emily, and now I might lose her forever to a man who'd drain her dry and disappear. I sat on the edge of my bed, phone in hand, Emily's number on screen. Blocked. Even if she was in danger right now, I couldn't reach her. Friday morning, I made an appointment with Dr. Helen Park, a therapist my doctor had recommended. "Mr. Morrison, what brings you in today?" I told her about Emily, about Brett, about lying awake terrified I'd lose my daughter forever. "My friend thinks I should be more aggressive, force the situation, but I don't know if that's strength or just fear dressed up as action." Dr. Park listened carefully. "What do you think the difference is?" "Strength is doing what's right even when it's hard. Fear is doing whatever makes you feel less powerless." "And which one are you choosing?" "I'm trying to choose strength, but it's killing me to wait." "That trust," Dr. Park said gently. "That's where real courage lives." I left her office with homework. Document everything, build the case methodically, and trust the process. Friday afternoon, Emily's colleague, Jessica Rodriguez, called me. "Mr. Morrison, I'm probably overstepping, but I'm worried about Emily. She's been acting strange, missed important meetings. Yesterday she mentioned quitting, said Brett's business needs her full attention." My worst fears crystallizing. "Jessica, has Emily invested money with Brett?" Last week she asked about liquidating her 401k early. She has maybe $48,000 in there. When I mentioned the tax penalties, she got defensive. $48,000. Emily's retirement savings, everything she'd built over 7 years of work. I spent the weekend compiling evidence. Margaret's documentation, the SEC report, news articles about the Seattle collapse. created a detailed timeline of Brett's pattern. I also hired a private investigator, Marcus Webb, who specialized in financial fraud. Marcus worked fast. Over the next 3 weeks, he traced Brett's real identity, his previous schemes, his current finances. The engagement party invitation arrived via email while I was still building the case. Saturday evening, November 3rd, at Brett's rented Back Bay condo. I wasn't sure I'd be welcome, but Emily had included my name on the list. Maybe that crack of doubt was wider than I thought. Marcus's final report arrived on the Tuesday before the party. Brett Donovan isn't even his real name. Born Brett Daniels in Tacoma. 2 bankruptcies by age 30. Restraining order from an ex-girlfriend in Portland. Currently wanted for questioning in a mortgage fraud scheme in Phoenix. The financial details were damning. In the past 3 months, Brett had received transfers totaling $93,000 from multiple sources. Emily's accounts showed withdrawals matching $48,000, her entire 401k. The rest came from 2 other victims Marcus had identified. But here's what mattered. Marcus traced the money. It went to the Cayman Islands, stayed there 48 hours, then came back to U.S. accounts split between 3 shell corporations Brett controlled. No crypto trading, no real estate investments, just money laundering. Then back to Brett's personal use. Saturday evening, I arrived at Brett's building in Back Bay. Luxury high-rise, doorman, marble lobby, the kind of place that cost $7,000 monthly, all funded by victims like my daughter. The penthouse was crowded. Emily's friends from work, people I didn't recognize, expensive catering, champagne, everything staged for maximum impression. Emily was radiant in a black dress, diamond engagement ring catching light. She saw me enter, expression tightening, but social obligation kept her polite. "Dad, glad you could make it. I wouldn't miss it. Where's Brett?" She gestured toward the balcony where Brett held court with several guests, expounding on cryptocurrency markets. I moved through the party, observing. Everything about this event screamed money being burned to maintain an illusion. Around 9, Brett found me. "Robert, good to see you. Can we talk privately?" He led me down a hallway to a home office. Leather furniture, expensive art, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking downtown Boston. He closed the door, dropped the friendly pretense immediately. "I know you've been investigating me, calling the SEC, talking to people in Seattle." My hand moved casually to my jacket pocket where my phone was recording, a trick Marcus had taught me. I'd activated it before entering. "Just looking out for my daughter. Here's the situation." Brett moved closer, voice low and hard. "Emily trusts me. She's already invested heavily in my ventures. If you continue interfering, I'll make sure she knows you're trying to sabotage her future." "By telling her the truth?" His smile was cold. "Truth is subjective. I'll tell her you offered me $175,000 to leave her. Show her fake bank transfer attempts." He pulled out his phone, showed me a doctored screenshot. My name, my bank information, a transfer note. "Leave my daughter alone." "That's fabricated. Doesn't matter, she'll believe me. And Robert, once she cuts you off completely, once she has no one else to turn to, she'll be much more cooperative about liquidating her other assets. That condo she owns, worth about $600,000. I'm thinking home equity line of credit, another $200,000 easy." My jaw clenched. "You've planned this carefully." "I'm very good at what I do. So here's the deal. Transfer $175,000 to my crypto account by Monday. I'll make it look like a voluntary investment. In 6 months, I'll stage a market crash. We all lose our investments, and I move on. Emily still has her condo and her job. Everyone walks away relatively intact. And if I refuse? Then Monday morning, I show Emily that fake transfer attempt. Tell her you tried to bribe me. She'll never speak to you again. And I'll spend the next year methodically extracting every dollar she has. The condo, her car. Maybe I'll even get her to co-sign business loans. When I'm done, she'll have nothing. and you'll have watched it happen from outside her life. I looked at him, this man who'd made a career of destroying people, and I smiled. Brett, you just made a mistake. I pulled out my phone, stopped the recording, played back the last 30 seconds, his voice crystal clear. Transfer $175,000 to my crypto account by Monday. Brett's face went white, then red. Give me that. He lunged for my phone. I stepped back, hand on the door handle. This recording goes to the SEC, to the police, and to Emily, unless you're out of Boston by tomorrow morning. You can't prove anything. That recording could be fake, edited. Try me. I've also got 7 of your previous victims ready to testify. Bank records showing your offshore accounts, documentation of your real name, your bankruptcies, the restraining order. His composure cracked completely. Sweat beaded his hairline. He glanced at the door, calculating escape routes. You don't understand. I have investors expecting returns, people who will come after me. He stopped himself, but I'd already seen it. Genuine fear. Not of me, of whoever he'd borrowed from to fund this lifestyle. That's your problem. Brett's voice climbed an octave. Okay, wait. He held up both hands. What do you want? Money? I'll leave Emily alone, I'll disappear, just don't go to the police. I want you to tell her the truth. Everything. Tonight. His face twisted. She'll never believe you anyway. I've spent months building trust. Then let's test that theory. I opened the office door. Emily was standing in the hallway, one hand braced against the wall like her legs might give out. Her face had gone sheet white, makeup smeared where she'd been crying. When had she started crying? Behind her stood Jessica and 3 other colleagues, frozen. How much did you hear? My voice came out hoarse. Emily opened her mouth. No sound. She tried again. All? Her voice cracked completely. She wrapped her arms around herself, shaking. All of it. She'd come looking for Brett. Found us in the office. The door hadn't closed completely. She'd heard everything from transfer $175,000 onward. Brett immediately shifted, that practiced charm sliding back into place. Emily, sweetheart, this isn't what it sounds like. Your father trapped me, tried to make me say things. Emily's hand trembled as she held up her phone. I recorded it too. Brett's face cycled through several emotions. Denial, anger, calculation, finally landing on something ugly. You stupid girl. You think you're so smart with your marketing degree and your little job? I could have made you rich. Jessica stepped forward. Emily showed me her bank statements. You took $48,000. Invested it, Brett snapped. Not my fault if you're too ignorant to understand how crypto works. Emily looked down at her left hand. The ring caught the light. That massive diamond that had made all her friends gasp. Her fingers trembled as she twisted it. Once. Twice. Then she yanked it off, hard enough that I heard the scrape against her knuckle. She held it up to the light, squinting. Cubic zirconia? Her voice was so quiet. She wasn't asking Brett. She was asking herself, realizing. Everything was fake. The ring dropped from her fingers, bounced twice on the hardwood, rolled under Brett's imported Italian desk. She didn't move to pick it up. None of us did. Get out, Emily said quietly. Get out of my life. Brett grabbed his jacket, turned to me. You just signed your daughter's death warrant. The people I owe? They don't care about recordings or police. When they come for their money and I don't have it, they'll go to everyone in my life, starting with Emily. He smiled, ugly. Hope you sleep well, knowing that. The police are already on their way, I said. I hadn't called them yet, but Brett didn't know that. He bolted from the apartment. After the party cleared out, Emily and I sat in Brett's empty living room. The champagne glasses sat abandoned, the expensive catering untouched. I gave him everything, Dad. My savings, my 401k, my trust. She was crying now, quietly. How could I be so stupid? You're not stupid. You're human. He's a professional predator. You tried to warn me. I called you controlling, jealous, blocked your calls. I pulled her into a hug. When Emily finally let me hold her, she sobbed into my shoulder like she was 12 again. I'm sorry, Daddy. I'm so sorry. She hadn't called me Daddy in 15 years. I held her tighter, felt her heart racing against my chest, and knew. This moment. This was worth every sleepless night, every unanswered call, every time she told me she hated me. She pulled back, wiping her eyes. Mom called me 2 days ago, said she was worried about Brett. I told her to mind her own business, that you'd probably poisoned her against him too. Your mother and I have our differences, but she loves you. Always has. And the next week was a blur. Emily filed police reports, got restraining orders, started the process of trying to recover her money. The chances were slim. Brett had already moved most of it offshore. We tracked him to New York, then lost the trail. Emily moved back home temporarily. She'd bought the condo 3 years ago for $570,000. Put down 20%. In a normal market, she could have sold for $620, maybe $630. But forced to sell within weeks, with no time to stage or market properly, she accepted $560. After realtor fees and the rushed timeline, she walked away with $62,000 less than she should have. Combined with the $48,000 given to Brett, she'd lost $110,000. She started therapy with Dr. Park. We went together sometimes, family sessions about trust and forgiveness. One evening, about 6 weeks after the engagement party, my phone rang. Unknown number. Mr. Morrison, this is Karen. A pause. Karen Sullivan, Emily's mother. Karen, is everything okay? I called to say thank you. Emily told me what happened, what you did. Her voice was thick. I could hear something else underneath, her own pain, her own regrets. I was wrong about you, Rob. When we divorced, I told myself you didn't care enough about family, but you saved our daughter. You stood between her and disaster even when she hated you for it. I didn't know what to say. I'm sorry, Karen continued, for what I said back then, about you caring more about work than family. I see now that you just showed love differently than I wanted, and maybe I couldn't see it because I was too angry. We both made mistakes, Karen. Yes, but I made Emily choose sides. That was wrong. Her voice caught. Watching Emily nearly lose everything made me question my own choices, including my marriage to Brian. We're separating. After we hung up, I sat in my study for a long time. 12 years of carrying that guilt, that sense of failure, and in one conversation, a small piece of it lifted. 3 months later, Emily got a call from the FBI. They'd arrested Brett in Miami, caught him running the same scheme on a dentist. 9 other victims had come forward after Emily filed her report. Enough evidence for federal charges. The trial was scheduled for September. Emily would have to testify. But there was something else I needed to do. Brett's arrest had triggered something unexpected. 4 of my high-net-worth clients called within a week, asking to move their accounts. They'd heard rumors that I was involved in Brett's operation. My assistant tracked the rumors back to anonymous posts on financial advisor review sites, posted 2 days after Brett's arrest. The writing style matched Brett's LinkedIn posts exactly. Even from jail, he was trying to destroy me. I called my attorney, Richard Chen, brother of my SEC contact, David. Can we sue him? Richard reviewed the posts. Defamation, absolutely. He's making false statements that damage your professional reputation. And since he's in federal custody, he can't hide. What are we looking at? We'd need to prove financial damages. Given your client losses, I'd estimate compensatory damages around $500,000 plus punitive. I did the math with Richard. 4 clients, each with portfolios averaging $2 million, combined annual fees, approximately $80,000, projected loss over 7 years until retirement, $560,000, plus emotional distress, reputational harm. I don't care about the money. I want him to admit what he did, publicly. Richard smiled. Then we ask for a public apology as part of the settlement, published in the Boston Globe and Financial Post. September arrived. Brett's criminal trial lasted 4 weeks. His lawyer tried every angle. The recording was entrapment. The victims were lying. The investments were legitimate but unfortunate. None of it worked. Emily's testimony was devastating, clear, detailed, documented. The other victims corroborated everything. The financial records proved the fraud conclusively. The judge sentenced Brett to 12 years in federal prison. Restitution orders for all victims, though we all knew that money was gone. Asset seizure, though Brett had spent most of it maintaining his lifestyle. But the criminal record meant he couldn't run this con again. Not easily. Not in America. The civil settlement was finalized the same week. Brett's assets were limited. Most of his money had been seized by the feds. But the judgment was clear. $500,000 in damages and a public apology. The apology ran in both papers the day after his sentencing. I, Brett Daniels, also known as Brett Donovan, hereby admit I made false and defamatory statements about Robert Morrison's professional conduct. Mr. Morrison had no involvement in my illegal activities. I made these statements with malicious intent to damage his reputation in retaliation for his role in exposing my fraud. I apologize without reservation. I framed it, hung it in my office, not out of pride, but as a reminder. Sometimes justice takes time, but it comes. After the trial ended, Tony showed up at my office unannounced. Didn't say anything at first, just sat in the chair across from my desk. Finally, I was wrong about the aggressive approach. He looked older, tired. I've been thinking about my daughter, about how I handled things when she was dating that guy I didn't like. I went full scorched earth. She hasn't spoken to me since. He met my eyes. 4 months. I counted. 4 months of Emily not taking your calls, blocking your number, calling you every name in the book. Tony shook his head. I would have lost it on day 3. Hired someone. Done something. You just kept building your case. Kept trusting she'd come back. He looked away. That's strength. Real strength. Not the bullshit I thought was strength. It's not too late, Tony. Call your daughter. Maybe I will. Last month, Emily got a promotion. Senior Director of Marketing. Better salary, better title. She's rebuilt her savings slowly. Found a smaller apartment in Somerville she can afford. Started dating again, carefully. We have dinner every Sunday now. Sometimes at my place, sometimes at hers. Last Sunday, over roast chicken in my Beacon Hill dining room, Emily asked me something. Dad, when you played that recording at the party, were you scared? I still wouldn't believe you. I thought about it. Terrified. But I had to trust that somewhere under all Brett's manipulation, you were still you. Still the smart, strong woman I raised. She smiled. Guess you were right. Your mother called me last week. She and Brian are finalizing their divorce. She asked if we could all have dinner sometime. You, me, her. As a family. Emily's eyes filled with tears. Really? Really? I'd like that. We sat in comfortable silence for a while. The evening light slanted through my dining room windows, catching the dust motes in the air. Outside, a couple walked past with their dog. Normal life. Simple life. Emily spoke again. You know what I learned from all this? Love isn't about never making mistakes. It's about showing up, even when it costs you everything. Where'd you learn that? From you, Dad. 3 weeks ago, I got a letter. Tony's daughter had agreed to meet him for coffee. Small steps, he wrote, but steps forward. He thanked me for showing him what it meant to be patient, to trust the process, to choose the hard right over the easy wrong. I wrote back, keep showing up, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. Last Sunday, Emily asked me one more question as I walked her to her car. Would you do it again, knowing I'd hate you for months? I didn't hesitate. Every time. She nodded slowly, like she'd already known the answer. Like maybe that was the point. She hugged me tight, then pulled back. I love you, Dad. I love you too, sweetheart. I watched her drive away, taillights disappearing around the corner toward Somerville. Inside, my phone buzzed. A text from Karen. Dinner next Sunday? All three of us? I typed back. I'll make my roast. I stood on my front steps for a moment longer, looking at my Beacon Hill brownstone. The home I'd bought after the divorce. The place I'd rebuilt my life. 12 years ago, I'd thought I'd lost everything that mattered. But standing here now, I understood something I hadn't then. You don't lose what really matters. You just learn what it is. Family, trust, love that shows up even when it's not wanted. That's what endures. If this story resonated with you, maybe you've had to protect someone who didn't want your protection. Maybe you've had to stand guard at the gates when someone you loved couldn't see the danger. It's not easy. It's not comfortable. And there's no guarantee they'll thank you for it. But you do it anyway, because that's not control. That's love.